Okay, I'm going to cover ambient occlusion render setup. And your geometry needs to have topology that allows you to see the rotation. So as I scrub along this, you can see that in shaded mode, I can't really tell how this ball is rolling. And if I switch over to texture mode really quick, and just press 6, you can see with the texture that's been applied that I can clearly tell how this thing's rolling along. Well, ambient occlusion is going to be much more like just a shaded view. You really can't tell what the orientation is. So you need to add topology that allows you to see that rotation. So I'm just going to pull in a ball I made called ringed ball, which just has 2 rings on it that allow you to see rotation. You of course could just modify the ball that you already have in your scene if you like, but this is a very fast way to make this happen. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my outliner, and I'll shift click on the ball ref, and this will allow me to see, if I click this, where the ball is, and then I can see the group. So this is the group that I want to parent this ball into. So I'll select the ball, select the group, and then choose edit, parent, and I want to make sure I check options here because I want to make sure that preserve position is off. By default that would be on and the ball would maintain its position, but in this one case we want the ball to actually slide over and take on the transform of the parent, so make sure that's off. And incidentally, that's why you can't middle click and drag here, because for whatever reason that way of parenting does not respect these options. So I'll say parent here, and that ball will just snap over into place. And this works because the ball was rigged at 0 over here at the origin, and this ball was still sitting at the origin. So that's why that snap together works so well. So I'll just get rid of these other 2 that we don't need, and now I have some topology added to my ball, and it's going to follow this the animation that I already did on the group levels just fine. So I'll just scrub along here so you can see now it's really easy to tell that rotation. Everything works fine. And if I wanted to, I could offset this sort of the way I had the other one, just to give it a little bit more of a random look. Again, this isn't animated, so this is just the ball inside the group that's animated, and now as it comes along, you get a sense of that rotation. Okay, so once you have that set up, I'm ready to get on to the rendering side of this. What you're going to do is select the mesh objects you want to be considered as part of the ambient occlusion pass, and then go to the render layers over here, and you want to add a new layer with this last button here, and this actually is going to add the objects to the layer. So we now have a layer that has just these 2 objects on it. It's okay if you add your controls and everything, they won't render anyways, but I'm just going to keep it simple and just add the 2 objects I'm interested in. I'll double click on the layer and rename it, so I'll just call it AO for ambient occlusion, and then I'll right click on that and choose attributes. It looks like attributes are probably going to be just out of the capture view, but I'm just going to the very bottom of this list and choosing attributes. That will open up your attribute editor. I'll shrink that down to fit the whole thing, and I'm just going to click presets and pull down to occlusion. And that will set up a number of overrides. It will set mental ray as the renderer. It will turn the background color of the render to white. It will add this surface shader to all objects on the layer, and it will have the ambient occlusion passed into this shader. So all you're going to see is an ambient occlusion, a white and black render. So that's really it for the render setup. I'll go ahead and click render, see what we have here. So not bad. This is one of the advantages of doing ambient occlusion, is it's lickety split. You're not waiting around on any kind of GI calculations or anything like that. It's really fast to do this. You don't have to worry about any kind of lighting or anything. You just get the basics of what you've done in terms of animation. You don't have to worry about the render too much, or wasting a bunch of time doing a render. So that looks pretty good. I'd say it needs to be tuned just a bit. It's a little grainy, so I'll just go over that. We'll go into Window, Rendering Editors, and then Hypershade. Sorry, I keep missing it. Hypershade. Okay, and we're interested in this MIB ambient occlusion. I just switched over to the Textures tab. If you're not sure what you're looking for, you can select an object that looks the way you want to mess with its shader, and click this button here, and that'll map the network down here, and this is the texture, so these are the same. But I'll just double click this, and because it looks blotchy or gritty, whatever you want to call it, what I'm primarily interested in is the samples. I need to push the samples up to smooth that out. I'm not terribly concerned about the fall off or the spread or how bright it is, that kind of thing, but all those things are available here for you to tune. Right now the only thing I really need to tune is sample, so I'll just push that up to somewhere around 64. It doesn't need to be a power of 2. I just stick with that. I don't know why. So anyways, we'll let that render through. So looks like a 7-second render. It's really nice and smooth. Everything looks good. So that's pretty much it for the ambient occlusion render setup. I'll go over the rest of the settings in a common render settings movie in just a minute.